Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis. Hope you guys have had a really great Tuesday. Let me fix my camera here. So it's time for another episode. But before we get started, I want to give a big thank you to some PayPal donors: Patricia, Debbie, Justine, Kathy, Phyllis, and Kristen. Also, thanks to the people who gave super thanks on YouTube and the Buy Me a Coffees. You guys are amazing. So I have good news. Grammy is here. She got discharged today, but let me tell you guys one thing. She's 88 and she says, I got thin skin, so she stays cold. So I'm really used to my house being cold, like 66 average, just nonstop. At night, maybe 64, 65. Y'all, it feels like the Bahamas in here. So if y'all don't see me after tonight, just know I had a heat stroke because it is hot up in this house, but we got to keep Grammy comfy. So I'm going to be sleeping with my window cracked open tonight. Yeah. Anyways, and also I'm just crossing my fingers that I make it through this episode without sneezing, because starting last night, I just started sneezing. And then I have these sneeze fits where, like, for 10 minutes, I just sneeze nonstop. Boom, boom, boom. It drives me batty. So I had to take Benadryl earlier, took a nap with her, and all that stuff. Music fact of the day: 7 years ago today, the great David Bowie died, and his first commercial success was Space Odyssey in 1969. The song was rush released to coincide with the Apollo 11 moon landing. Ground Control to Major Tom. I'll tweet that out. I love that song. Okay, so we're going to jump in with Anna Walshe. So 8 days since she went missing. And yesterday, her husband, Bryan, was in court for lying to investigators or misleading the investigation. He pled not guilty. So a little background on these two. They met when she was working at a luxury hotel in Massachusetts. And he is the son of a physician and attended top boarding schools and universities, just had a privileged upbringing. They married in 2015 and have 3 young sons. So back in 2009, though, Bryan was accused of stealing nearly $1 million from his father before they became estranged in 2009. So his dad was a neurologist and died in India in 2018. And actually, his father's lawyer was the one to call and tell him that his dad had passed away. And Bryan was cut out of his dad's will. So legal documents show that Bryan asked for the key to this beachfront property his dad had in Hull, Massachusetts. It was worth over $700,000. He wanted to see the will for himself, even though his dad's attorney took a photo showing, hey, dude, you're not in it. You're the black sheep. And the will was dated May of 2016, so just a couple of years before his death, but well after they became estranged. So in the documents, it said that Bryan essentially broke into the home and stole valuable artwork, including Salvador Dali. He's accused of stealing a car and just all kinds of little trinkets. If you're online, you can see this. I'll have a link in the description with all the pictures. And just a month after his father's death, put a lot of this stuff up for sale online. So here's Bryan, here's Anna and Bryan. And I'm going to tell you, this dude looks really happy to be getting arrested for what really looks like him not only murdering his wife, but likely dismembering her. That was one of his internet searches, by the way, that they found: how to dismember a human body. So back to the prior bad acts of this guy. He allegedly tried to sell that home for more than $140,000 than it was worth, after he was mistakenly named the executor of the will. So he didn't inform anybody of his father's death, and the actual executor of the will was a nephew of his dad's. And he only learned about the death after he contacted a friend of his uncle's back in 2019 and was told he had died. So eventually another family member took control of the estate in July of 2019, which Bryan tried to object to the appointment of the new executor. And a probate judge actually ordered him to provide an inventory of the items he took from his dad's home, but he refused to do it. He's accused of stealing more than $100,000 from his late father's bank accounts, and the assets he took were quickly converted to cash like a month later. Man, definitely not son of the year. The ruling says he wasn't entitled to any of the items, and it says that the stealing was to sustain his lavish lifestyle. Some of the money went towards credit card debt, travel, things like that. So, more recently, in the fraud case that involves the fake Andy Warhol paintings, he's accused of failing to inform the probation about two different IRA accounts, including one he contributed $91,000 to. He also did not include a 2015 Maserati, which belonged to his wife, Anna, who's now missing and presumed dead pretty much. She had posted that the car was the best Valentine's present of my life. Kiss to my husband who makes all of my childhood dreams come true. That car was worth $120,000. He still hasn't told the FBI, by the way, where the real Shadows paintings by Andy Warhol are. But Anna wrote a letter to the judge in the Warhol case saying, during these 8 months, our family was able to be together during many milestones. On December 21st, 2021, my mother suffered a major neurological event which caused heavy hemorrhage. Bryan was the one who heard my mother's sighs for help within seconds and immediately called me an emergency. She keeps repeating that she wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her son-in-law. Not only did he save her life, he also brought her and the entire family comfort and joy during the course of her illness. Bryan has been working consistently on breaking the past habits of his family, and we are all looking forward to the new chapter of his life. Wow. She didn't know what was coming. Bless her heart. Her mother said that Anna messaged her in Serbia on Christmas Day, begging her to come visit the next day. Her mom suggested the request was due to some problems in the marriage, and she told Fox News that Anna said, "Please, Mama, come tomorrow." Her mom said, "Clearly there must have been some problems, and now I can't forgive myself for not just letting things fall where they may and just go, and whatever happens to me, happens." Their landlord actually told Fox News Digital that the couple seemed like regular people. They had moved into this home in March of last year. And the district attorney, Lynn Beeland, said that Anna's phone pinged near the home on January 1st and the 2nd. January 1st is the day she was said to have been missing. So the probable cause for her husband, Bryan, was released yesterday. And it says between January 5th and the 7th, Bryan did mislead, intimidate, or harass another person who is a witness or potential witness at some stage of a criminal investigation. It says after the missing person report was filed, the officer asked Bryan to establish a timeline for January 1st and 2nd, and he did on multiple occasions. Bryan says he was at home at a New Year's dinner with a friend that he and Anna hosted at their home. Their friend arrived at 8:30 and left around 1 or 1:30 in the morning, and then he said they went to bed shortly after the friend left. He's actually given an interview. I just haven't had time to watch it. I'm curious to see what he says. But Anna told Bryan she had a work emergency and needed to fly to DC in the morning, and he said she would usually use an Uber, Lyft, or a taxi to get to Boston Airport. He says she left between 6 and 7, and then he says he woke up around 7, made breakfast for their sons, and that afternoon the babysitter came. He said he left to run errands around 3 p.m. He said he went to Shaw's to get orange juice and milk and came back home. Then he said he left again at 4 to see his mother and says he did not have a cell phone, so he did not use GPS. Isn't that really convenient? He tells investigators that he deviated from his normal route because he didn't have his phone and didn't have GPS. And what should have taken around 60 or 70 minutes to get there took 90. He said 15 minutes after arriving at his mother's house, he went with her to run errands at Whole Foods and CVS to get groceries and cleanup wipes. He went back to his mother's condo and got back to his house around 8 p.m. So he told police that one of his sons must have lost his phone on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. He said the phone was found January 2nd under one of his son's pillows. I mean, throwing your son under the bus. Come on, dude. I mean, you're low, but how low can you go? Really, really low. So he says on the 2nd, he took one of his sons to get ice cream while a babysitter watched the other two. And then on Friday, January 6th, we jump ahead. There's the massive search that's underway for her. It resumed on the 7th, and that afternoon, 6 investigators drove to verify the route Bryan says he took and also to the Whole Foods and CVS that he went to with his mom. Guess what? He wasn't observed on any video from either place in the time frame that he said he was there. They also mention his conviction for the wire fraud, and his pre-sentencing probation included monitoring and home confinement. And he has to request to be able to leave his home each week and specify the time and the reason that he needs to leave. And just a note, he's been on this home confinement for the last 7 months while awaiting sentencing in that fraud case. So beginning January 1st, the day she goes missing, he was granted leave to drop his children off from school between 8 and 10:30 a.m. and then pick up from 3:15 to 6:15. He was also granted leave for shopping on Wednesday, January the 4th from 11 to 1:30. So January 1st, he requested travel between 3 and 9 p.m. to drop off his mother, saying that she had a recent cataract surgery and was staying with him at his residence so he could help her. And he had the time scheduled so he could bring her home after her recovery, which he said was quicker than anticipated. And he said that she had driven herself home, but he still used that approved time to visit her and run errands for her. So investigators note this is the day she goes missing, and then there's this huge gap where he says he's at mom's and going to these places and nowhere to be found. So it says in the affidavit, the statements to investigators were consistent about his whereabouts on January the 2nd, in that he took his oldest for ice cream and a smoothie at the Press Juice Bar in Norwell. This was during the approved school drop-off time between 8 and 10:30, even though there was no school due to it being a holiday still. Investigators discovered video evidence of Bryan at Home Depot in Rockland, get this, wearing a black surgical mask, blue surgical gloves, and made a cash purchase. It was like over $400 worth of cleaning supplies. That trip was in violation of his probation condition. And also, data from his cell phone, which was given with consent, showed the device traveled to the Brockren and, oh man, y'all Boston people are going to hate me, Abington during the week beginning January 1st, and that route isn't approved for travel. We know that as a busy parent, you don't have time to completely overhaul your life in the new year. One change that's easy to make that will make your life easier in 2023 is Little Spoon. Most of the baby and kid foods at the grocery store is heavily processed and often on the shelf longer than your little one has been in this world. Not cool, and not the quality nutrition our kids deserve. Little Spoon makes everything fresh, organic, and uses absolutely nothing artificial. It's just like homemade, all delivered to your door and ready in seconds. From baby food to big kid, Little Spoon has you covered for years. Little Spoon even hides vegetables and chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and more. Their smoothies come in pouches that make on-the-go snack easy, healthy, and tasty. And yes, I tried one. They're great. Did I mention it comes right to your door? It's flexible, easy, and everything stores in the refrigerator or freezer. You can pick your menu for a variety of foods to introduce to your child. The price is right, the quality is unmatched, so make this year's chaos a little more manageable with time-saving, delicious, and healthy meals and snacks your kids will love. Go to littlespoon.com and enter my code WhatTheWorld at checkout to get 50% off your first Little Spoon order. That's littlespoon.com and enter WhatTheWorld for 50% off at checkout. They note this is not the complete list of unapproved leaves either. They say the intentional and willful and direct response to investigators about his whereabouts on the 1st and the 2nd were a clear attempt to mislead and delay investigators. The report says his answers to questions delayed the search for her with his untruthful answers. Now, just days before her disappearance, he Googled how to dispose of a 115-pound woman's body and also how to dismember a human body. What a moron. I mean, did these people really think that they're gonna get away with it? Because number 1, the first person they look at is the spouse, the significant other. And then his son loses his phone and yeah. So on the Home Depot footage on January 2nd, he was seen buying $450 worth of stuff, which included mops, buckets, tarps, tape, and other cleaning supplies. The search warrant for the home revealed the blood in the basement, the broken knife as well. So, yesterday in Peabody, Massachusetts, which is north of Boston, and according to Google Maps, over an hour and a half from their home, investigators found several items of interest in a dump, including trash bags with blood, a hatchet, a hacksaw, a rug, and used cleaning supplies. The items are currently being tested, and the DA's office said that nothing would be released about those items at this time. They also checked a dumpster that came from his mother's apartment complex. Also, another trash facility was being searched today in southeastern Massachusetts. This facility is just a little over an hour from their home and 2 hours in the opposite direction from the other facility, if I'm doing the Google Maps right. So, also, the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families confirmed they have custody of the 3 boys right now. Investigators were back at the home today and removed brown evidence bags. Several investigators were seen leaving the property around 2:30. They say the search could continue either in today or into tomorrow. Now, the Los Angeles gallery owner, Ron Rivlin, who was the victim of the Warhol fraud, told the Daily Beast he knows how to play the legal system. He knows how to play everyone and everything. He's very calculated. He said initially Bryan was charismatic, articulate, transparent, and professional, then did a 180 after he delivered those fake Warhol paintings and was unreachable until this guy got a hold of Anna at work and later the FBI. His defense attorney, on the other hand, says he's been incredibly cooperative with police. He's not charged with murder. He's charged with misleading investigators by not saying, as I understand it, he went to a Home Depot. Okay. So he's being held on a $500,000 cash bond right now and has another court appearance on February the 9th. And I really expect murder charges and probably others, which would be like tampering with a body or disposal of a body anytime now. I think there's enough, even without finding her immediately, to charge him with this. But I'm sure, hopefully they can find some answers soon and give the family some answers. But anyone with information is asked to contact Detective Harrison Schmidt at 781-383-1055, extension 6108, or email hschmidt at COHASSETpolice.com. So let's hop over to Madalina Cojocari. The search warrants and the probable cause affidavit were released today, and there really was not much in there we didn't already know. We read through some of this on a prior episode where the SRO and the school counselor, SRO is a school resource officer, so just a police officer that's designated to be in that school during school hours. They went to the home because Madalina was truant. They went on December 20, they went and got no answer. So on December 15th, Diana was supposed to show up at the school with Madalina and didn't. That's when she told them Madalina had been missing since November 23rd. So detectives went to the home on that same day, the 15th, with a search warrant to look for evidence. Remember, they saw that area in the kitchen that was blocked off with plywood, and the stepdad said they were going to add a separate apartment. The search warrant document, it was heavily redacted. I think out of 25 or 50 items seized, they only showed 3 things they took, which were 3 iPhones. And that was the only thing unredacted on that. And remember, there was a video that I think I showed on an earlier episode. The blinds were closed, but you could see them upstairs taking photos. You could see the flash going off. So there it says here, the places to be searched are records maintained by T-Mobile for target telephone number, which was redacted. If the records for this target number is maintained by a service provider other than the above listed provider, this search warrant shall author. Look, y'all, this heat's getting to me, y'all. I can't talk. I can't think. Uh, shall also authorize the production of records from these other cellular telephone service providers. They also plan to use the results to go over calls, texts, voicemails, tower pings, all the usual things they're going to search for. In the search warrant, which was executed on New Year's Eve, they were looking for physical evidence, including samples of blood, bodily fluids located in any physical search, for weapons, clothing, hair samples, and any samples picked up from chemicals that pick up evidence of biological material like the luminol when they spray to see if there's blood that's been cleaned up. Police are also asking, back to this photo, anyone who saw this light green, is almost like a seafoam green Toyota Prius in the Madison County area. That's kind of near Asheville, North Carolina, not far from me, like 40 minutes up the road. Between November 22nd through December 15th, to call 704-892-7773. Included on the poster of the car are 2 photos of Diana, Madalina's mom, in a ball cap. Police have revealed that she drove to kind of a remote area in the mountains near Asheville after Madalina was last seen, but before she was reported missing. So they're not cooperating apparently, and it just doesn't look good. So let's jump over real quick news for Richard Allen, the suspect in the Delphi murders. He has 2 hearings on January the 13th at 10 a.m. The supplemental motion for discovery and request for Rule 404, that's character evidence, and Rule 405, which are methods of proving character. And at 11 a.m. the same day, there'll be a hearing on an ex parte motion authorizing funding for a fact investigator. And Lori Hellis actually was nice enough to respond to a listener on Twitter and said, these are pretty typical motions. It appears that in Indiana, the court has to approve public defense expenditures. And in some state, there's a state office of public defense that does that. The defense is asking for an investigator to be appointed to review the case. So thank you to Ms. Hellis for clearing that up. Lastly, let's jump over to Kohberger. And he has a preliminary status hearing set for this Thursday at 8 a.m. Now, the defense will decide if they want a preliminary hearing, which would need to occur before January 19th, unless there's some kind of crazy circumstances. At a preliminary hearing, the prosecution essentially puts on a mini trial, and then the judge will decide, does it go to trial or are the charges dismissed? So if probable cause is found during the preliminary, the defendant goes to trial. If none is found, the defendant's let go. If they waive the preliminary hearing, then you got a plea entered, which will probably be not guilty in this case. So, Shannon Gray, the lawyer for Kaylee's family, said that Kohberger has no connection to any of the students he murdered, telling Business Insider no one knew of this guy at all. It appears from the affidavit that he was in the area of the house on several occasions. That's all we know. And also that the victims never indicated to anybody that they were being watched. We know Kaylee mentioned a stalker to several people. I'm still just super interested in motive here. He also said that the probable cause affidavit outlined a lot of hard evidence. He said the police have always said they want not only arrests, they want a conviction. So we're hopeful that that's where we're headed. He said he believes the case against Kohberger will get stronger as time goes on and more evidence is gathered and put together. He said, who knows what they'll find inside the car and his apartment. He said Kaylee's family is grateful that the surviving roommate was able to describe the man alleged to be Kohberger to police the night of the murders. And speaking of that 8-hour gap between her seeing the man alleged to be Kohberger and the 911 call coming in, the family attorney says she is a victim in the case. So I think everyone needs to treat her as a victim. I don't think anybody knows what they might do in that situation. Okay. And so lastly, this is, well, not lastly, there's one more little thing after this, but this is all over mainstream media. So I'm going to do it. I just watched an interview with this girl on Inside Edition. So this is a a young woman that says she went on a Tinder date with Kohberger about 7 years ago. It didn't work out. It was like 24 hours they communicated, then it was done. She said, "We matched on Tinder. We talked for a couple of hours, and then he was like, 'Hey, do you wanna go to the movies tonight?' I was like, 'Sure.' So we went to the movies." She doesn't remember the movie they went to, but they did go back to her dorm room, and Kohberger invited himself inside and asked if she wanted to watch another movie. And she said, "Okay." So she claims he kept trying to touch her. And she says, not like inappropriately, just trying to tickle and rub my shoulder and stuff. And she asked why he was touching her. She said he suddenly became super serious and said, "I'm not." And she said, "But you are." And she felt like he was kind of gaslighting her into thinking that he wasn't touching her. So she said she didn't feel as if she was in danger with him and wasn't scared of him, but did want him to leave. And being socially awkward, she didn't know quite how to ask him to leave. So what'd she do? Went to the bathroom and pretended to throw up. I mean, that's one way to get somebody out of the house, right? Just pretend like you're blowing chunks. And so, but she said he stood outside the door, which she thought was weird. But eventually, he sent her a message on Tinder saying that he was leaving. And about an hour later, this may be the worst pickup line I've ever heard in all my years, y'all. He said, "You have good birthing hips." So she said she never talked to him again. And then she just said, "Just be aware of who you're meeting up with and maybe, save another 19-year-old girl from being stupid." She said, "I was lucky he didn't hurt me, and I was lucky that no one else I went on Tinder dates with hurt me, but things could have ended very differently. I don't think if I were single, could do Tinder." But new video footage also shows what may be Kohberger returning to the crime scene around 9 a.m., just a few hours after the murders. The video is actually online, and his phone pinged in that area around 9 a.m. as well, which we know a lot of killers return to the crime scene. I'm sure he was just looking to see if law enforcement had made it on scene yet. So anyways, that's it for tonight. Be back tomorrow with another full episode. I hope it gets really cold tonight, y'all, so I can crack my window. And I'm going to have to go outside and stand while this is uploading. I'm sweating bullets here. Yeah. So, all right. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night. We'll see you soon.